All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We got something a little bit special planned for you today. We just got down here to Destin, Florida, and we're teaming up with Nate from Southern Salt and Southern Salt Bait Company, and we are going to be heading out today offshore with Badland charters, looking to do some bottom fishing mostly. I think we might do a little bit of trolling too, just kind of depends, but I'm game for anything, man. It has been a while since I've been out offshore on a boat, so I'm looking forward to this. Huge shout out to Nate for the invite, and of course to Badland charters for having us on board today. So boat's pulling into the dock right now. We got to get our gear and get down here, get all set up, and we should be getting underway pretty soon. This is gonna be a great day, guys.
You ready for us to hop on, or you need us to hold on for a second? You say come on down?
So we hopped on board and got underway pretty quickly, making our way out of Destin Harbor. And this was actually my first time passing through this area on a boat other than in my kayak, and man, is it beautiful out there. Now, full disclosure here, we knew going into this trip that the bite might be a little bit tough. Captain Ryan had run a trip earlier that morning, so we didn't end up hopping on until midday, which is the absolute worst possible time that we could be going out, especially with this blazing summer heat. There were also a ton of other boring environmental factors playing a role, like tides and moon phase that we'll touch on a little bit later in the video, but the point is that we decided to go ahead and send it anyway, suspecting that we might have some difficult fishing ahead. So first stop of the day was to try to pick up some live bait just outside of Destin Pass to try to increase our odds as much as possible. Pulling up on this buoy here. We're gonna see if we can get ourselves some bait real quick. There he is. I lost one of them, but we got two. There's actually a sig. Look at that. Woo-hoo-hoo. Here. One at a time.
That's a thread-fin herring.
Yeah.
These are amazing tuna baits.
Alrighty guys, and we are out here. We just made the run about 40 miles, about 400 feet of water right now. I'm gonna have the link for Badland Charters, Southern Salt Bait Company, and Southern Salt's YouTube channel, as well as everything that we use in this video down below in the description. But if you're down here in the Destin area or anywhere on the Emerald Coast, come over to Destin and check them out. 32-foot Seacraft, super comfortable run out here. This is gonna be awesome, guys. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little bit out of my realm here. I don't do a lot of deep stuff like this. Most of the stuff I do is kayak fishing pretty close to the beach. So this is gonna be a little bit different for me. We're using electric reels, which I've never done before. I'm excited to give it a try, and hopefully we can pull some good fish up. All right, we're gonna get baited up here. First live bait of the day. First drop of the day here, guys. 400 feet of water. Let's see what we can pull up. Meanwhile, on the back of the boat, Nate made his first drop at the same time, but using a jig instead, and it didn't even make it to the bottom before getting smoked by a giant fish. All right, I'm reeling up to get out Nate's way. Nate's on a screamer here, just rip and drag already on the first drop.
Definitely a pelagic. We were about 250 on the way down. Could be an AJ. Whatever it is, it's big.
AJ? Hard to say. Could be an AJ.
I'm saying AJ.
More than likely as high as he hit.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking it's a wahoo or a king.
Dude, if it is, it's giant. Come on. Dude, on the drop. Like, we just pulled up from the spot. Captain Ryan Reed took us out 40 miles, said this is where we're gonna hook up. Couldn't even get down to the bottom. And I mean, we just got a freaking stud on. I mean, this is stalemated. Oh my gosh. Why go to the gym when you can just go deep drop? Right?
Right?
Get a little seat right here. You got one of them rod butt cushions?
Yeah.
There's one that I saw on the floor here. Try that one.
Thank you, sir. Coming towards the back of the boat.
All right.
Swing us back port.
You're gonna get worn out on the first drop.
Dude, first drop. How crazy. You know what they need to add on to these electric reels? They need to add a fight timer.
Yeah. Right?
Come on, give me some. Give me some. Come on up. No chance of tuna, right?
No, there's a possibility, but I mean, I don't see the
Is he death spiral?
rod popping like it should for a tuna, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
I think by now he'd be doing circles too.
250. We're back where he bit.
Yeah.
I feel like I still got a long way to go. There it went. Popped off.
Heck, coming up.
All right, boys. Well, we'll never know.
Yeah, lost that one.
Dude, that was
That's a good fish.
freaking massive, dude.
Obviously, losing that fish was a pretty disappointing start to the trip. Crazy enough though, after reeling his jig back in, which he still had by the way, we were shocked at the damage to it that ultimately led to that fish coming undone. Y'all go check out Nate's video over on his channel Southern Salt to see what happened to that jig, but let's just say that we determined that there was really only one fish that could have been, which made it even more devastating. Also, I had to cut out a ton of swearing after that fish came off. Anyway, let's get another live bait down.
Okay. All right, let's get this down there.
And I'm just gonna speed through a lot of this first spot because even though Captain Ryan was absolutely killing it, fighting the current and keeping us over piles of fish, no matter what baits we dropped, we just weren't having any more luck. We could already tell that these fish were gonna have lockjaw this day. After a quick move though and another little bait change, our luck finally changed a little bit as well.
All right, got a chicken rig here. We're gonna try dropping some squid down, and we're just hooking 2 of these whole on this chicken rig right now. I'm down.
And as soon as this bait hit the bottom, we finally got the bite that we were looking for.
All right. First fish for me.
James has hooked the fish.
About time.
So James is running another electric reel over there.
Letting the electric reel do the work here. 400 feet of water. I'm not reeling that manually. This boat is set up. He's got several of these electric reels. Makes this super convenient, especially if you're a little bit more inexperienced with deep dropping. Like me. This would be brutal on the arm though. I'm excited to see what this is. I'm hoping it's a big mingo. With the spot that we're on, he's saying that there's pretty good mingo here. All right, coming up. Come on, baby, give me something good. Give me something good. What is going on? Oh yeah.
Nice mingo, nice mingo. Bring him over here.
Yep.
Give it some slack. There we go, look at that.
Sweet.
That's almost a 5-pounder right
Yeah,
there.
it's a solid one, man.
Oh,
But yeah, a little bit bigger than they do on the kayak reefs out here.
that's why we came out here.
Hell yeah.
Y'all look at that vermilion. Doggone 4 or 5 pounders right there.
Yeah, man, that's a stud.
Stud mingo.
Yep.
See how long he is.
About 20 and a half. 20 and a half pinch tail. Yeah, it's a good one. All right, guys, check out that mingo, vermilion snapper. They got all kind of different names, but that's by far the biggest one I've ever caught. Obviously, for those of you guys that regularly watch my channel, you know that I pretty much just kayak fish the public reefs off Navarre there. And most of the ones there could be a lot smaller than this, but you get out here in this deeper water, these guys get big, man. That's a good one. It's a little bit bigger than I'm used to. All right, get that guy on an ice bath here. And we are getting back over the structure, and it's time to drop for another one.
But unfortunately, just as suddenly as we got that mingo to eat, the bite went cold again, even though we were sitting over thick schools of fish and giving them everything that we had. I've never in my life seen reef fish so reluctant to eat as these ones were. So we spent the next little while jumping around to nearby spots without having much luck. Nate did end up hooking another really nice fish on the jig though.
Nate's on.
That might be an amberjack. is. It's not a giant one. It could be an Almaco.
Almaco in season right now?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they're
That's
always
okay.
in season.
Okay.
Woo. Going now.
No AJs are out, right?
Yeah, they haven't released the weights on them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first one was a Wahoo. Definitely.
No, ain't no doubt.
Yeah.
Come on. These giants today. Giants. Working and getting coming up. So with this setup, 30-pound test right here, Cortland braid, and I do got a 40-pound fluorocarbon leader. I could run the motor, but with this fish running like this, the line being light, I don't want to burn the motor up or...
So right here I ran up to the front of the boat real quick to grab some camera equipment for when Nate got this fish up, and somehow, despite how desperate we were to put this fish in the boat, this one also came undone.
But I lost another one, y'all.
Clearly luck was just not on our side this day.
How you gonna make a video when you suck this bad, Nate?
We didn't have too much time left as the afternoon was getting later and later. This was initially intended to be a pretty quick trip anyway, so Captain Ryan decided to change things up a little bit and try targeting some pelagics, or fish that inhabit the upper water column. So to do this, he tied a stinger rig onto a free line and hooked a giant live hardtail and tossed it out in front of the boat. And it got picked up pretty much instantly, not by what we expected, but what did end up eating it was actually kind of crazy. Check this out.
I just got color on him. He's here.
Yeah, I just saw black.
It's a bonita.
You suck, Nate.
Not a black fan?
Nah, it's a bobo.
Big ass.
Bonita really ate that big ass hardtail, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty f***ing impressive.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
That was a big hardtail too.
God damn.
Whew.
Freaking 15-pound bonita.
Damn, man, that's a big bonita. Are you gonna have to eat that for the catch and cook now?
I ain't doing it. I'm gonna put something in this boat that I can eat.
Now, I know a lot of you guys are watching this like, really? A bonita gets you excited? But the crazy part about this one was the hardtail that this bonita ate was huge. So we were all kind of shocked when we saw this absolute giant bonita show its colors underneath the boat. I catch bonita all the time for my kayak, but the ones close to the beach don't have anything on these monsters 40 miles out. This thing was absolutely massive. So after that bonita, we ended up bouncing around a little bit longer, trying some more bottom spots for snapper, and we even tried jigging some more pelagics, and we just still were not having any luck whatsoever. And we could tell that the bite this day was just really, really bad. So in a last-ditch effort, we decided to throw the outriggers out and try doing a little bit of trolling as we started slowly making our way back towards Destin. As I'm sure you can imagine though, this didn't really yield much success for us either. We did end up hooking one more absolutely gigantic bonita that I reeled in this time just to make myself feel nice.
Something like a bonita. He's stumping like a bonita. Bonita. Got him. See ya.
But I just can't stress this enough that Captain Ryan busted his ass all day long keeping us over piles of fish. And this is just a perfect example of even if you're in the right place, doing the right thing that you successfully do all the time, some days the fish just have other ideas despite what YouTube makes it out to be. And hey man, that's just fishing. It's not always easy. So after trolling a little bit longer with no more bites, and as the sun was beginning to set, we decided to just go ahead and run back in towards the harbor for the night.
All right, guys, and we are back at the house now, getting ready to clean up and cook this giant vermilion snapper that we got yesterday with Badlands charters. It's actually the next day now. We got in super late last night, so I figured I would just wait until today to clean this fish up. So I've had it buried in ice in my fish bag here overnight. As that fish gets really, really cold buried in ice, that meat firms up and it makes it so much easier to clean the fish without it flopping around, and it keeps it from getting mushy, and it just keeps that meat nice and fresh. So really good way to get really good quality fillets out of your fish. This giant vermilion snapper for me made the entire trip, man. This is the biggest vermilion snapper that I have ever caught. This thing is absolutely massive, and there's no way, like, it would be a miracle to find one this size close enough to shore where you could get them from a kayak, which is how I normally fish for them on this channel. All right, so we're gonna get into cleaning this fish up now. Now I use 2 different knives when I am cleaning fish like this, like snapper and sheep's head and like similar shaped species with a similar bone structure. The first one that I'm using is a pretty stiff blade. This particular one is an 8-inch, and you can see how much wider that blade is than my smaller knife here, and that wider and stiffer blade makes it so much easier to lay this knife right on the bone structure of the fish when you are initially separating the back of this fillet. Now the second one that I'm using is a 7-inch blade. This is much more flexible, and this is the one that I use for those fine cuts, like separating those last couple bones off of the fillet, trimming, and things like that. So we're gonna get started with the larger fillet knife. This is the stiffer one, and the first cut that we're gonna make is gonna be right here behind the fin and right up behind the gill plate. So I like to start at about 45 degrees forward, and we're gonna dig that knife up underneath those scales. You don't wanna start by going straight down because you're gonna be cutting through the scales. It's so much easier if you just run up underneath them, and once you're underneath them, you can straighten that knife out and go straight down all the way until you hit the bone structure and follow that head up, and then finish that cut off the bottom of the fish. Now, the next cut that we're gonna make is we are gonna start separating the fillet from the back of the fish, and we're gonna use just the tip to start outlining that cut. And what I like to do is point the blade of that knife almost parallel straight towards the back of the fish. If you've got it like this, you're gonna be using the cutting edge to actually cut through those scales, which is gonna be much harder. So if you point it like this, you're actually cutting from the soft inside of the skin out and avoiding having to cut through all those scales. And it will allow you to just follow that bone structure and run it right down the back until you get down here to the tail. You're gonna punch all the way through, slide right off. All right, next thing we're gonna do, I like to take my hand and get a good firm grip on the front of this fillet, and you can actually use these fingers to kind of grip the front where you made that cut. And we're gonna use our thumb to open up that initial cut. And you're gonna take that blade and put some downwards pressure, resting it right on the skeleton of the fish, and start working it down towards the spine, using your thumb to kind of peel that fillet from the skeleton as you go. Now, you don't want to go past the spine. That spine is going to run right down the center of the fish. So we're going to make that cut right down to the spine, and you should feel it, you should hear it. You can kind of hear it right there. And once you get to that spine, use your thumb and you can open up, and you're going to start seeing the spine there, and you're going to see where those ribs start connecting. Just angle the knife slightly upwards, and you're going to make one swift cut just like that, and you're going to feel and hear those bones separate, and that's going to sever those pin bones. And now put downwards pressure on that blade, resting it right on the ribs, and you're going to be good to work it right down towards the belly, the gut cavity of the fish, and that is going to separate those ribs from your fillet and leave you with a totally boneless fillet. I'm going to take my blade again, run it almost lengthwise with the fish, put downwards pressure, and go right over the spine down towards the belly. And then at this point, you can just take that blade, work it right down the ribs to the belly, and then just follow the skeleton and separate that fillet. So I'll take my index and my middle finger and just put downwards pressure with my fingernails on the tail of this fish here. And I'm gonna get that cut started. And luckily, most of these snapper species are gonna have this very thick skin that's really hard to cut through, even with a nice sharp fillet knife. So you can put pretty good downwards pressure on the blade side of that knife. And then once you have it cut in there a few inches, get a good grip on that tail with your thumb and your fingers, and literally just pull the skin. I'm not moving the knife at all. I'm just pulling the skin from the tail and working it over the knife with the blade in a fixed position until that flesh completely separates from that skin, and you can see that there's nothing left on there. But every once in a while, that last little rib on the back side, you will miss, and it will get hung up in the fillet. You can just work that knife underneath that last little rib there, remove any of those, and then sometimes too you will get a little bit of that gut cavity, the membrane on the outside of that you can just remove right from the bottom of the fillet there.
Microphone issues. So at this point here, I was basically separating the row of pin bones that run down the bloodline, which you can do by making a cut above and below the center bloodline, and then just separating that strip.
And that is how to clean a vermilion snapper. Now, the nice thing about that method that I just showed you is it's a very universal method for most saltwater species. So all of your snapper species, at least that we can catch here, like red snapper, mangrove snapper, lane snapper, and of course vermilion snapper, but even sheep's head, red drum, black drum, this is the same method that I use for all of those. Let's get inside the house now. We are going to cook the snapper up. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but we are going to figure something out and turn this into a delicious meal. Alright guys, so I've been trying to think about what we're gonna do for this recipe. I've done a couple catch cooks recently, so I was trying to think of something a little bit different. So I've actually recruited my wife, Michelle, and she's gonna help me. So she's been doing sourdough, and she's using sourdough starter to make us some homemade fettuccine noodles right now. So she's got her sourdough starter that she's been working on for several months now. We've affectionately named it Matilde dough. She's done everything from brownies to cookies, fettuccine noodles. Of course, she's making sourdough bread, which we'll probably end up doing a little bit of garlic bread out of for this recipe. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take that vermilion snapper that we got out there with Badlands charters, and I'm gonna try a new seasoning style on it with a little bit of breading, a little bit of panko, and we're gonna try to do like a garlic parmesan style breaded fish, pan seared in butter. It should be delicious, and we're gonna do it over this homemade fettuccine. Now, I am cheating a little bit. She makes a fantastic Alfredo sauce, but we are going to use a jar today. I am gonna spice it up a little bit, but we're gonna use a jar. We're trying to get through this while Casey is asleep. Realistically, we maybe have like an hour and a half worth of nap for him. So we're gonna see if we can knock this video out and take that one little shortcut. But everything else is gonna be homemade, and it should be absolutely delicious. So right now, Michelle's mixing up the dough that we're gonna use for our homemade fettuccine. And what do you need to do for that, babe, with that sourdough starter?
You just put it in the middle of some flour with 2 eggs.
And that's it. Mix it up. Right now, while Michelle is rolling up that dough, we got some water heating up on the stove for this pasta. I'm gonna go ahead and get this fish prepped. Now, one thing about saltwater fish, you never want to wash it in fresh water if you can avoid it. Every once in a while, I still do it if it's got like a ton of scales, but you don't ever want to do that until like you're ready to cook it. But ideally, try not to do that. It does change the texture and the quality of the meat. So what you really want to do is you can just blot it with a paper towel. I try to kind of clean it up on the fillet table as much as I can so there's not a ton of scales and stuff that needs to come off. But just make sure you get all those scales off there until it's nice and clean like that. And that's usually going to be good. If you need to wash it, you can do it with like a saltwater wash, and that's usually going to be a lot better than any kind of tap water that's going to have chemicals in it. So we're just going to use one fillet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and portion this in half, top to bottom. So we're going to come right down the bloodline. Even though there's no pin bones in this, we'll just take the rest of that bloodline out. So I'm going to do a little bit of Louisiana style fish fry, and we're not going to completely coat this. Like, I don't want it breaded. We're not deep frying this fish. We're just gonna do like a light little seasoning on it just to give it like a real nice crisp in the pan with some butter. Now for the seasoning, I'm gonna be using this Kinder's garlic parmesan. This is my first time using this, first time trying exactly what I'm doing here. We are gonna sprinkle a little bit of this into our fish fry. I'm gonna just give it a real light sprinkle on the fish as well and just kind of pat it in there. Give it a light dusting. All right, Michelle is getting ready to roll our pasta noodles here. So just putting a little bit of flour on the wheel so it doesn't stick too bad. But she's just gonna roll that out nice and flat there. So this first one here, this actually just rolls the pasta out nice and flat to the perfect thickness. So it cooks nice and evenly. And while she is rolling that stuff out, I will show you guys the next step with that because it is a fascinating process if you're into cooking. But I am going to put just a little bit of Parmesan in here, and we're going to kind of get this prepped. And we're going to take those fillets, and all you have to do is press them into that seasoning. Like I said, we're not really like deep frying this fish or anything. We're just going to give it kind of a light dusting of this. So I don't need to completely coat it. I don't need to do an egg wash or any of that kind of stuff. Boom, that is perfect, and that's what it should look like there. You can see she's got a couple more of those dough balls to do, but she's got 2 of them done. It makes it nice and long, perfect thickness there. It's about maybe a little bit less than 1 millimeter thick. Right, and then this attachment that she's got here, this is the one that actually cuts the noodles, so you can see those noodles coming out the bottom there. Perfectly shaped, all even, nice and consistent. These KitchenAid attachments make this pasta making so much easier. Yeah, those look great, babe. Nice.
I'm sure some of you are screaming right now that we are using this jarred Alfredo. Like, what's the point of making the rest of it homemade if we're just using a jar? And again, this is just for time purposes. And I like to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And then we're gonna spice that up a little bit with some pepper and some salt and just a little bit of garlic powder there. That should do it. All right, and while she's getting that pasta ready, we're gonna go ahead and get a little bit of oil on this skillet that's already preheated. And then we are going to take a nice little chunk of butter there. And this is gonna be like the secret sauce for getting this fish perfect and crispy on the outside. Now, the trick to this with the cast iron is you gotta put a little bit of oil in there. That's what's gonna help prevent this butter from burning. But the other trick to it is you gotta keep your heat low. So on this stove, it's gonna be different than what you're using. This one's kind of old, but I've got it set to only 3. So it's a pretty low setting. And you can see once that butter melts down, it essentially will stop boiling, but it doesn't burn. If your butter's burning and it's turning brown, you don't wanna put the fish in there because that fish, especially with the seasoning, is gonna stick to that skillet and be a nightmare. And now we are going to be good to take our fish right into the skillet. And I always like to rub that around in the butter and then give it a flip and rub that side around in the butter too. And that's what's gonna give it that nice crispy golden brown crust on the outside. And this should only take a couple minutes per side. I usually will do like 2 minutes on the first side, give it a flip, and maybe like 2 or 3 minutes on the other side. What's cooking good looking? What you got in there?
Nudes.
You're looking good. And it's been just about 2 minutes here. So we're gonna give this a flip. And that looks so good. You guys can see that that crust on the outside just got beautiful golden brown, nice and crispy with that butter on there. Michelle got our noodles dished up, so we are gonna go ahead and put a little bit of that Alfredo in there. And then top that off with that delicious vermilion snapper. And finally, our homemade sourdough bread. And she actually makes butter too. We didn't use it on this one, but she's making most of the butter that we use in this house now as well. She's been really getting into it. Making the homemade stuff with less ingredients, like yogurt. We have a whole bowl of yogurt in there. She's making homemade sour cream right now. I think this is awesome. All right, and that looks so good. It smells amazing in this kitchen right now, but that looks awesome. I'm so excited to dig into this. All right, babe, it's up to you. Give it the taste test. See how we did. They good? Yeah? Mm-hmm. How's the fish?
Good. Enjoy your food. I'll film my stupid YouTuber stuff. Thanks, babe. Appreciate the help. Alright, guys. Now it's my turn, and I'm super excited about this. That is so good. Oh my gosh. 100%. That's better than red snapper. That is delicious. Get another bite here before I talk to you guys. My God, that is so good. And for me, a lot of it is like the fact that we were able to go out and catch this fish. Got onto this thing, 400 feet of water. That's actually the deepest I think I've ever fished. I don't do a lot of the deep drop stuff. I don't have a lot of opportunities to get out there on the boat. So again, thanks Nate for the invite. Thanks to Badlands Charters for taking us out there and getting us on this mingo. This is the biggest mingo, vermilion snapper, beeliner. They have tons of different names, but this is the biggest one that I've ever caught by like double the length and probably like 5 times the poundage. Like, this was a sweet catch. All right, guys, that was by far one of the best fish dishes that we made in this house in a long time. Those beeliners are just such a tasty fish. The meat on them, like the consistency, the flavor, everything about them, I think that they're better than red snapper, and definitely one of the best fish that you can pull up out of the Gulf, at least closer to shore like that, until you start getting like really, really deep. You know, I'm sure a lot of people watching this are kind of questioning like how we were able to go 40 miles offshore and I only ended up coming home with 1 beeliner. So let me just kind of address this. We knew going into this, like I said at the beginning of the video, that the bite probably wasn't gonna be super great. And there's a lot of different environmental factors that go into that, man. And you know, those of you that watch my regular videos, you know, typically I'm fishing the public reefs out there in Navarre, which are only a mile and a half from the beach. But a lot of those conditions that we're having on the tougher days out there in Navarre are gonna be the same conditions that you can apply to pretty much anywhere that you're fishing, whether you're 40 miles out or even if you're inshore or something like that. You know, things like what the tide is doing, weather, temperature, all that kind of stuff. I think the biggest thing that we had going going against us and why the bite was so tough is we didn't end up getting out there until literally the worst part of the day to fish, which is why we kind of suspected that it might be a little bit tough. The hottest part of the day is right when we started fishing, and that's usually when the bite is the worst. And that's the time slot that we had available with him. He did have to run a trip that morning, and you know, there were some other factors that are going against us too. During that trip, we were out there during a full moon, which the full moon can play an effect in pretty much any kind of fishing, no matter what you're doing all over the world, whether it's freshwater or saltwater. The full moon can play an effect with the saltwater specifically. The main couple things with the moon is that it does obviously affect the tides. So the tides and the tide changes and how much water is moving in and out and the currents and all that stuff can be different with the different cycles of the moon, and that can affect how the fish are feeding. The other thing too though with that full moon is it puts a lot more light into the water overnight that lights that bait up, so those fish are able to see overnight and they can see that bait. So any fish that are like visual feeders are going to be feeding throughout the night, and then once it starts getting hot as the sun comes up, they tend to just turn off. And we have that same exact issue a mile from shore on the Navarre public reefs there. So, you know, that was really no surprise that even 40 miles out there, we were still having that same issue with those environmental conditions. But it was awesome getting to go out there with him. Captain Ryan with Badlands Charters, awesome guy, super knowledgeable and helpful, and he worked his butt off to get us over those fish. And we were over fish all day long. We jumped around to maybe like, you know, 6, 7, maybe even 10 different spots throughout the day, and all of them had stacks and stacks of fish on them. And between throwing artificials, like dropping jigs down there, doing baits like squid, even live baits, I was dropping cigar minnows and all kind of different stuff down there. We just could not get those fish to eat. But yeah, the bite just, it definitely wasn't for a lack of trying, guys. We worked our butts off, and Captain Ryan absolutely worked his butt off to get us over those fish. And sometimes they just don't cooperate, and that's how it is. But I will have Nate's channel linked down below in the description if you're not already familiar with it. Please go check him out. I will have Southern Salt Bait Company linked down below as well, including my exclusive discount code CKW10 that you can use at checkout to save yourself 10% off your entire order. And of course, I will have Badlands Charters contact information, phone number, email, and their website linked down below in the description of this well. And he also runs his own YouTube channel. When he gets to 2,000 subscribers, I believe he said, he is going to be giving away a free trip. So y'all go subscribe to Badlands Charters channel. The link will be down below in the description of this video. So again, thanks to everybody that was involved with getting me out there on this trip. I had a great time, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate each and every one of you that is helping my channel grow, and I can really see that progress over the past couple months. Even with my channel getting hacked and losing a couple weeks worth of time there, I can really see the progress in my analytics of the channel just really starting to exponentially grow, and it's all thanks to you guys. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video.